Hello, folks. HeroGeek here with my first video alone, and I am joined by CiderHype, creator of Star Supreme and the Colossals, an upcoming comic book, superhero comic book coming soon to crowdfunding. So, how's it going?
Well enough, man. How about with you?
I'm doing great. I'm really excited about this conversation we're going to have today because both CiderHype and I are huge superhero fans, and we're huge fans of iconic, classic, hopeful superheroes. Something that in today's, comic books and, basic superhero entertainment is kind of missing, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And no more is it missing in any character than Superman right now.
Oh, definitely. And I think it really, for me, that all started back in the 80s with Frank Miller's The Dark Knight Returns.
That's a good place to point to. Yes.
That's, I think, was the start of the whole deconstruction superhero trend that's been going on for a while now.
Well, was it the Killing Joke? Was that before The Dark Knight Returns?
It might have been. Alan Moore did that one. Alan Moore and Frank Miller were kind of the fathers of the deconstruction of superheroes because Alan Moore also did Watchmen. So
yes,
there's that. But it just, back in the 80s, that happened, but it wasn't as prevalent until recently. I think with people like Dan DiDio and Zack Snyder, I think they kind of brought it back. The Man of Steel and Batman v Superman movies are like some of the worst ones. What happened in the comics with the New 52 and all of that, and what's happening with DC right now with like shows like Titans and Doom Patrol and the Harley Quinn anime show. These are all just really dark, vulgar, mature rated stuff, and I don't like it. And also stuff like The Boys and Kick-Ass and comics like Invincible, all of that. It's just I don't like that deconstruction of superheroes trend that seems to be really popular.
Right, the dark and gritty kind of superhero that never has a bright color on them and certainly can never be seen in the sun smiling.
Yeah, with moral ambiguity, and they kill people, and they're brutal, and they're violent, and they're not good people. They're not people you should look up to. All of that,
Yeah, when suddenly all heroes became the Punisher.
Yes, exactly. So, what are your thoughts on it?
It's a pretty big topic to tackle. While the Return of the Dark Knight was where a lot of people kind of point to it as well, because this is where Snyder drew from for
Yes.
Batman versus Superman, which further compounds this deconstruction and frankly destruction of the superhero.
Yes.
And anyone out here that gets kind of testy about that Snyder thing, I'm sorry, I don't really like how he sees superheroes. I think he'd be a lot more at home in the Marvel universe, where they like to be very dark and have a kind of a dour sort of outlook on the future. That I don't know if it'll be good. Whereas DC,
I'm not sure I agree with that. Marvel doesn't seem that dark.
It seems, well, for me, I only know it through its crises. A lot of the times I didn't follow the ground stories. I was more into DC because they were the hometown heroes that always brought always saved the day just in time for the sunset.
Yeah, but Marvel, I don't think. I mean, aside from characters like the Punisher and whatnot, Spider-Man isn't dark, or Captain America isn't dark, Iron Man isn't dark. The X-Men.
I don't know. Tony Stark is an alcoholic that nearly killed himself in one comic. Gun to his head.
Yeah, fine. But recently, I think Marvel's problem is the opposite of DC's. I think Marvel's problem is SJW and all of that stuff.
Well, don't forget DC's fallen into it too. I
True,
recall a recent.
DC is falling into it too, but Marvel's way worse than
Oh
DC
yeah.
is right now.
Well, see, DC, they just recently had a Batgirl book. I think it was sometime last fall come out where a few pages were dedicated to one of her friends being misgendered at a fertility clinic.
Oh yeah, and then there's also the Gotham High thing going on, and
Well, I just want to put that into perspective. Batgirl, the daughter of the police commissioner of Gotham, the most crime-ridden city in the world, who goes around beating up mobsters and monsters dressed up as a bat. That comic spent 2 or 3 pages trying to emotionally charge a young person being misgendered, trying to get you, the reader, to be angry about that.
yeah, that's that's
That's
almost as
time
bad.
wasted where she could have been punching bad guys.
Exactly. This is what superhero comics are giving us nowadays. This is what the mainstream are giving us. They're giving us Gotham High. They're giving us the New Warriors. They're giving us Children of the Atom. They're giving us America Chavez and Riri Williams, and that's what we're getting. And I don't like it. And I see that, and one day I just said, you know what? I'm gonna do something about this. So that's how Paragon Prime was born. Essentially,
Well,
that's what it was. Yeah.
well, you're also looking at too that we're also living in the post-Cold War era, and a lot of the world is still digging itself out of that too.
Mm-hmm.
People can argue that the Berlin Wall fell back in '89, but a lot of that oogity boogity really didn't leave until the Soviets fully collapsed. So we're all still kind of living in that post-environment, kind of missing the days when America was so patriotic and supercharged,
Mm-hmm.
when a lot of these heroes were at their prime and doing the great things that inspired us to be lovers of heroes. We're living in an era now where the post 9/11 era, and we're living in this era where people are complaining about the loss of their freedoms, as they should, and you're having this very depressed mentality about the future, this belief that we're kind of at the end of it. There's going to be no more greater things than this. And we saw that come to play out in all of DC's movie offerings.
Mm-hmm.
They seem to take the DNA of the early 2000s and the 2010s and come up with this very, I don't know, do you remember emo music?
Yeah, I do.
They came up with the emo version of the Justice League.
Mm-hmm.
Right down to the color palette.
Yeah.
And when you're looking at that kind of thing, watching Henry Cavill portray a sad and dour Superman that barely smiles, and when he does, it looks like he's having hot wind blown in his face. It's the worst feeling for that Superman to smile or acknowledge himself as a good person or anything like that. And that tore me out of the mainstream. The movie did. The comics themselves were way gone. Superman, for me, the downward slide for Superman was when he died.
Mm-hmm.
They took after that, Superman came back and he was no longer this rootin' tootin' American hero. You'll get it every now and then for when they want to tell that particular story, but before that, universally, Superman was truth, justice, and the American way. When he came back from his death, a lot of that kind of fell to the background as they wanted to tell more serious stories with him.
Okay, fair enough. I've read some decent Superman stories post-death. A lot of them, actually. Like recently, the Rebirth stuff is really solid. I don't know if you've read any of that.
Well, I would say that's because of the Rebirth, and that's really Jeff Johns at the helm of it really made that the case. He's got his finger on the pulse of that hometown hero feel.
There's also, a few stories sprinkled here and there. Superman Brainiac comes to mind. Superman Up and Away is also really, really solid.
I liked All-Star Superman by Grant Morrison.
That's also a really good one too, yeah.
Right, but again, I mean, you're having these ones where they're pulling Superman from the Cold War era. They're pulling that cheesy, near godlike Superman in those stories.
Mm-hmm.
And where he's more often in these comics now, just Batman's get out of trouble free card.
Yeah.
You've seen it. As soon as someone invades the Batcave, all of the Batcave computer screens light up with the Superman signal, and the roof caves in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's very annoying to see, like, the history of Superman, where he was an intelligent, super intelligent character. You remember that, right?
Yes.
Well, they stripped that out of him once they decided Batman needed to be on the Justice League. Batman couldn't serve a purpose next to these gods unless he was smarter than them, and you couldn't have Superman being an alien genius.
Mm-hmm.
So they had to dumb down Superman, and when they did, they took from him something very special, I think. When he gives these speeches about hope and the future of humanity and the purpose of being united against something that threatens all of us, it seems very empty without that intelligence behind it. And I know some people like the farm boy, I don't know any better than to do the right thing mentality. But I think Superman, when he was able to weigh the consequences of his actions on the world stage, was much more engaging of a character.
Okay, cool. I understand. I think we got some of that. I really enjoyed the Rebirth stuff by Tomasi Jurgens, and I think that the change that Superman needed was him as a father.
I agree.
That was wonderful. That was a joy to read. Jonathan was an amazing character, and I was really excited. I was really excited for the future of Superman, based on what I was reading in Rebirth. And then Didio came back, and he brought in Bendis, and that was all just poison. That was just ruined.
Ooh, yeah.
That was terrible. I'm like, oh well, that didn't last too long,
Yeah, it was fun while it lasted.
Yeah.
But there again, here you have this example now of a someone who wants Superman to be something inspirational and someone who wants Superman to be something functional.
Okay.
And that's go ahead.
Meaning like meaning Didio wants him to be functional, and Jeff Johns wants him to be inspirational.
Correct.
Okay.
Superman as the inspirational form, he can't exist on the Justice League. That inspirational style of Superman is essentially a god.
Okay.
He would not need Aquaman. He would not need Wonder Woman or Batman for anything in that regard. And it would make a very boring story because Superman would just be punching his way out of things. So you have these stories that focus on his morality, his choice making, where he is godlike, the inspirational Superman. And then you have the functional Superman with the Justice League, who is the tank, the laser vision guy, the super strong, move it out of the way guy, the haha, you thought that would hurt me guy. That's kind of what Superman falls into when he becomes the functional Superman on the Justice League.
Okay, so you don't like him as part of the Justice League?
I don't mind him as part of the Justice League, but my problem is that they don't tell Superman on the Justice League. They tell a 3/4 of a glass of Superman on the Justice League. If they were tell the whole story, you'd have a vastly different Justice League. You wouldn't have Cyborg or Batman around because the threats capable of harming Superman would just obliterate them upon contact.
Okay, so are you more of an Avengers fan than you are a Justice League fan in that regard?
No, I like the Justice League when Batman is not the central character. Let's put it that way.
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
The old Justice League. Oh, go ahead.
I think the Justice League cartoon did that pretty well. I mean, the first season, I'll admit, I wasn't a huge fan of the way they handled Superman in that season because he just was super weak and always got his butt handed to him in the first season of that show.
Yep.
But later on, I think it got better in further seasons. Well,
yeah, it did get better, and I think that they've learned their lesson about that whole Superman getting his butt kicked in order to make other characters look better thing.
Mm-hmm.
But again, now we're in that place again where Jonathan Kent is now the original Superman, and Clark's just a poser.
Is that what's going on? I did hear
Time
that.
travel BS now credits Jonathan Kent with being the first Superman.
Oh, yeah, just like they did with the whole Green Lantern thing. Now it's some old Vietnamese woman. or something.
Well, that's actually even funnier. Is that she was apparently more powerful than Hal Jordan, and yet never acted.
Yeah.
Even during Darkest Night, she was just
Ugh.
like, "Yeah, not feeling it."
So, darn it. So that whole, they're retconning to be diverse and inclusive and, social justice and whatnot. And they're, in the meantime, they're diminishing, these iconic established heroes just so that they can virtue signal, pretty much.
Well, this is the bizarrest thing about it, okay? Take DC, for instance. I'm sorry, I'm just knowledgeable about it, or somewhat anyway. Um, Take DC, for instance. If
Okay.
DC has 52 different universes, so that means there's 52 different opportunities to have any kind of Justice League you want. You
Hmm.
don't have to say that this Earth 52 showed up in 1977 in our world. You don't even have to acknowledge that anymore. You can just wipe the slate clean and say, here's the Justice League you know from 80 years ago. Here's an evil variation of them, and now here's everybody else.
Yeah.
It's that simple. But these guys, they want to make sure that whatever they're considering the main timeline of any of these comics is full of all this political messaging. And I'm not really sure why. I'm not sure it's really occurred to them that they could tell every story they want to tell in its own universe.
Yeah, I don't think it's occurred to them either. Yeah, I don't think
Well,
they thought of that.
if you think of America Chavez, the character is obviously meant to express sexuality and being, I believe, of Latinx descent
Hmm.
in America at this time. And of course, it has to have the far leftist mentality behind all of her stories. They have to have this far leftist mentality where there's some type of Trump analog that is
Hmm.
hurting everyone in some grotesque manner, or there's a Pence analog or an ICE analog. They can't say that America Chavez rescues children from interdimensional monsters that use the same powers that she did to come here from her dimension. They can't do that because that might actually engage in children and make them feel safe rather than politically inform them.
Yeah, precisely. But pretty much all of Marvel's comics are like that now. I mean, I can't think of one that isn't. I mean, and not only that, but they've ruined the classic heroes. They've ruined Iron Man and Captain America and Thor, and Hulk.
Again, because they're trying to ramrod these new characters into a place where they could exist very comfortably in their own alternate universe.
Yeah,
Think about Riri Williams and oh gosh,
Kamala
what is the
Khan.
Hulk? Yeah, Amala Khan and the new Hulk, the kid there. Is his last name Cho? Am I getting that right?
Amadeus Chow, I think. Yeah.
Chow, yeah, Amadeus. You get Amadeus in there. You have your Lady Thor, Jane Foster Thor, and you add in this new Avengers that you have with like these heroes on them, for instance. So in this universe, all of these characters have these purposes. I'm trying to think at the same time what I'm talking about because it's Gwen Stacy's universe. There it is. It's Gwen Stacy's universe that did this best.
Spider-Gwen, yeah.
Yeah, her Spider-Gwen universe. And I know like a lot of people don't like Spider-Gwen, but I don't
mind Spider-Gwen that much. I don't think she's bad. I think she's pretty interesting.
Yeah, a lot of potential there, but just squandered on politics again.
Yeah.
Rather than just kind of switch everything around and say, oh well, Thor's a girl now, Hulk's a girl now, blah blah blah. You intermingle these new characters they've created into a universe that's all intermingled in itself, right? Like Gwen Stacy's.
Mm-hmm. Hello?
Sorry about that. Bang my knee.
Oh, okay. You okay?
Sorry. Yeah, the Gwen Stacy universe mixed everything up, right? You had Daredevil as a bad guy. He was a mobster at that.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, it was a very interesting thing, and he was still blind, of course, but he wasn't a lawyer. He was more like the big,
So he was the kingpin of that universe.
yeah, pretty much. I think
Okay.
he even called himself that.
Okay.
But he he was the big bad guy for her.
Okay.
She had to overcome him, and then before that, her universe was dissolved, so she never got any closure on that. And that's this Into the Spider-Verse Gwen Stacy. She's
Yeah.
been robbed of her righteous kill, you know.
Hmm.
So, but this is kind of brings us here to this conversation about the death of the hero, because here it is, Gwen Stacy going around being angry she didn't get to kill Daredevil.
Yeah, that's where all this stems. That's where my motivation stems. I think that's where your motivation stems too, where we just feel there's this void of hope that needs to be filled because the big two aren't filling it. They're they're deconstructing it and they're poisoning it with the characters that should be inspirational, that should be hopeful. They turned Captain America into a Nazi. They completely demasculated Superman and had his son be taken away from him and be tortured for years and came back, an older person, and they took all that away from Superman. And that bothers me a lot. And that's why I'm like, I need to do something about this. I need to create something that's going to fill this void.
Well, and that's where we're at now. I call it the new age of creation.
Okay.
And this is what it is that it is everywhere. It seems to be erupting with new ideas, new techniques, new music, new comics, new video games. It's a brand new age of creation. We're not stagnating, repeating the same comic, the same video game, the same song. It's finally starting to break up where new ideas and new things are coming through. And in particular, inside of this is the call for new superheroes. I believe that the heroes that are born right now, in or outside of Comicsgate, in the indie market, anywhere you're going to get them out, these superheroes now are going to be the inspirational superheroes of the next 100 years. These are the ones that will be carrying the flags of their nations and letting those children there, far and away around the world,
Yeah, definitely.
know that it's safe to close their eyes at night.
Yeah, I feel exactly the same way. I mean, I'm doing this for myself. I'm doing this because I think it needs to be done. I'm also doing this for my 9-year-old nephew.
Absolutely.
I want him to be able to read these stories and be inspired by by my character. I want that. And I think you want this. You want the same thing. We all want, and it's great to see other people too. Like Peregrine, Wings of the Falcon. That's a great looking book, and I'm really really excited about that one too.
Mm-hmm.
And I want
and they talk about reconstructing the hero. They're
yes,
very interested
yes.
in the old model of superheroes being revolutionized through the filter of the modern century. So I'm excited to see how they translate the whole universe through. It seems like they have a very good introduction, if you will, to the explosive reconstruction universe.
Yeah, we had an interview with them a couple of
Yes.
weeks ago, and it was amazing. I totally geeked out over what they were saying, and I was totally connecting with everything that they were saying about superheroes and what the book was about. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I want from superhero comics again. This is what I need. And then I met Shu through Piper, and we got talking on Twitter.
Mhm.
And we were like, well, we have the same exact ideas as to what superheroes should be. We have the same exact ideas as to what needs to be done for the industry for superheroes in general,
Right.
And it was exciting, it was really, really great. And we had some great conversations and stuff.
Well, and that's just it, is that we're not alone here. There's many people out in Comicsgate, in the indie market, out in just general Normieville, just bouncing around looking for something to hold on to right now in the middle of this plague.
Yeah.
It's not like we're going to be able to slap a book out right now, but on the other end of it, when things have settled down and folks are looking for something new to believe in. Maybe not necessarily the lines on the paper, but the philosophies that inspired the lines and the words the characters speak might be what people need to hear coming out of this plague.
Yeah, I think so too. I think so too. I think I'm excited for the future, and I hope that I'm able to do it and to get my character and my comic out there, and for people to look to see it and to read it and to see and to feel hope again and inspired again.
Well, it takes fire, and it takes the belief that beyond all hope you will rise.
Yeah.
Because this is an industry that will crush you. There are people that do not like certain things, and they are very, very set in that way, and they will attack you for a very long time, just simply because you're putting out a superhero book and not a book about people being turned into blood blenders.
Hmm.
Just just when a lot of the things we've encountered, I talked with Peregrine's group a while ago. A lot of the things we've encountered talking about superheroes with our friends is that a great deal of them do like the Snyder version of
Yeah, I have friends of mine. My best friend doesn't have a big problem with it. My cousin doesn't have a big problem with it. And I try to explain to them like why I have a big problem with it, and they're like, whatever. It's just another universe. I'm like, well, you don't get it. I try and I break it down, and they're like, whatever. They don't really care. Like, oh well, I guess I'm wasting my time talking to you about this.
Well, but the thing they what do you hear all the time? Let me just back that up. What do you hear is their response when you ask them, why is it okay for a superhero to kill?
Well, one of the biggest excuses that I get for Superman being the way he was in Man of Steel was, "Oh, he's just learning. He's just learning to be Superman. He doesn't know. He doesn't know how to be a hero." And I'm like, it's just, and that doesn't sit well with me. Like, well, yeah, he should know. And first of all, the issue is that Jonathan Kent didn't raise him right, because he told him, basically, oh yeah, you should have let those kids in the school bus die. So the very basis of Superman is already ruined with the Kents not raising him the way he should be raised, right?
Mm-hmm.
So later on, when he just fights Zod in the middle of Metropolis with no regard to the lives that he's killing, punching Zod through buildings full of thousands of people, and then when they make the excuse, oh well, he's just learning. Like, no. That's not the way it works. That's not the way it works. I mean, what do you think? I mean, maybe you have a better articulated argument to what I just said.
A lot of the time I hear from them, what do you expect out of these heroes? Look at what they have to do, what they're up against. Of course they would be this way. Batman's been blah-de-dee blah blah for how long, and Superman's been blah-de-dee blah blah how long, and it's all dependent on the movie's narration. The movie's plot and how the characters are characterized in the movie.
Yeah.
They don't talk about that part. They talk about Batman and Superman like they're real people and that they are allowed to have faults and things like that. And it's not that they can't, but we need to remember everything that happens on that screen is by the decision of the director, writer, and special effects team.
Yeah.
There is nothing in that story that was by accident or an oopsie doodles. Everything there was literally in those movies constructed right down to sand particles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So no, there should not be these deliberate lapses in judgment on superheroes. If you're going to write a story about angry superheroes, there are tons of stories like The Boys that would have plenty of room for a Batman-like character to go around city streets in a tank blowing up people for justice. There's plenty of room for that. But you then have a character like Superman in this universe, as you brought up. And he is sad and he is remorseful and he has let people die in order to whatever. I'm not sure. The other thing that upset me was him allowing the wheelchair bomber to go off and obliterate the Capitol building.
Oh, yeah.
He literally just stood there and then flew away like, oh, well, I guess I don't have to answer questions now. Bye. didn't stay around to say anything or check for survivors. He didn't even do like a look around to find out if anybody had a heartbeat. He was just kind of like, I'm out.
Yeah.
And that is Zack Snyder's Superman, a god that is burdened by having to deal with humans.
Cold, unfeeling, detached.
There it is.
Yeah.
The character does not exist that way because of any other reason than the writer's choice to make him that way. All right?
He saw humanity and his powers and his responsibility to save people more as a burden than a calling, than a destiny.
Right. Maybe not even a destiny, just something he should do.
Yeah.
You know,
doesn't Martha Kent in the movie tell him you don't owe humanity anything or something like that, right?
Yeah, that's it. That's in Resurrection there when he comes back in Justice League.
Yeah.
But again, I mean, we follow this trend again with a superhero being in this position where, like, I hate being a superhero. I'm so sad about it. Yeah. I mean, I get it. Superheroes see some bad things. I mean, I can't tell you how I'd feel about an 80-story tall starfish that controls my mind. That would probably scare me.
Yeah.
You know? But you have these heroes, and you can't write them like people.
That's the whole point. These people, the Snyder Bros, and everybody who defends Snyder's movies and all of that. They all say, well, this is how superheroes would be like if they were real. But it's not supposed to be real. This is escapist entertainment. I don't go to these stories or these characters to be reminded of the real world.
Sometimes it works for some heroes. Like Batman works great in that environment.
Right,
Superman
but even so, even with Batman, I felt before in the past they've never taken it too far. You know, I'm looking at the animated series, which is my favorite interpretation of Batman that I've ever seen.
Good choice.
You know, I think that struck the right balance between dark and light. I mean, yeah, it was dark and it was serious, but it wasn't bogged down either, if that makes any sense. That show and in some of the older comics, they struck that really sweet balance with Batman stories, you know?
Well, he's a very compelling character. He's
Yeah.
very right as far as what are his motivations, who does he fight, and why does he fight them. It's very, very simple.
You know, also another great one of my favorite Batman stories was Batman Hush. That's an incredible Batman story. It's probably my favorite comic book Batman story ever. A lot of people are going to point to Dark Knight Returns or The Killing Joke. Nah. For me, it's Batman Hush. I love that comic.
And again, I mean, you're at a place, you're reciting a story where Batman was called to act heroically, not in bloodthirsty vengeance.
Mm-hmm. Also, another great example of an amazing Batman story is the animated movie Batman Under the Red Hood. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yep.
That's phenomenal. I love that movie so much.
It framed Jason Todd finally for normies that had never read comics about him but had heard about him. And it did a really good job of putting into perspective the torture that character went through and his resolve to see an end to Joker.
Yeah, not only that, but it really justified Batman's no killing rule. And I really like the way that it did it, you know?
It's true, and it really brought him to the brink of it.
Mm-hmm. And I love that hard choice that he had to make in that movie, the struggle of why he doesn't do that. And I love the explanation behind it. And the movie was just phenomenal. I really love that Batman story too.
Yeah. And then Batman versus Superman showed up.
Yeah, the stories that I just told you about that are dark. They're dark stories, but they have a morality to them too.
Well, they're only dark in the beginning and the middle. At the end, they have a happy, I wouldn't say like, Teletubbies resolution, but they have a victorious resolution that in your heart gives you the sense of a righteous victory. You know that good and justice have been served thoroughly at the end of that book.
I think a lot of people mistake Batman for an anti-hero instead of a dark hero. There is a difference.
Yes. Yeah. Well, for Snyder, he seems to think it's Punisher in the Batman costume.
Yeah. There's a difference between an anti-hero and a dark hero. And I think a lot of people don't know that difference.
And again, I know sometimes people in the comments will reply. I just want to make it clear. If you like the Snyder cuts and his movies, that's perfectly fine. I just have a brighter, more future. I have a brighter look at superheroes than Zack Snyder's several shades of mud filter he puts on.
Yes. And I don't know if you've seen interviews that he's done where recently there was a video, like it was a while ago. There was a video showed up where he was talking about Justice League and Superman and Batman, and it was horrible. I don't know if you've seen that.
Well, I don't. I stay away from him. But it's leaking now that they're trying to put together the Snyder cut.
Yes.
So.
And a lot of people want to see it. A lot of people are like, "Oh, this is going to be great." I'm like, I have no interest in it whatsoever. I don't care.
This whole, I feel bad for Wonder Woman in this. She ended up getting the worst of it in all of this DC mess because she came out with 2 great movies. I know Wonder Woman 84 is going to be spectacular.
I think it's going to be good. Yeah.
And now it has to die because DC can't go forward the way that it is now. They'll have to reform that whole universe if they want to put out movies, or they'll follow the Shazam method, and each movie is like a comic book. It's separate from the other movie.
Yeah, and don't even get me started on Birds of Prey. Let's not go there. Let's not go there.
Well, I do want to bring up something because this is tied to heroism. Do you like Harley Quinn as a hero or as a villain?
As a villain.
Okay.
Well, why? Well, do you disagree, or do you have another point of view?
Well, I do. I like Harley as a hero. I like her as a woman that escaped an intensely abusive relationship, that she's not quite wrapped tight, that the PTSD of it is getting to her a little bit, and that she has to rely on her friends to keep her grounded. I think that added an entirely new dimension to the character other than a cartoonish gag for the Joker to make pinups of. But that's just me.
Okay.
I always felt that Harley in the cartoon was just kind of there. She was an interesting addition because she was born there. But Harley always seemed like the comedic relief. When the Joker was getting too serious, Harley would come pirouetting onto the screen with a hammer. And that would be how they dispelled the tension. So having a Harley that's like grappling with all the horrible things that happened to her and that she did, trying to equate all that is nice. I don't, however, like her third wave feminist agenda. That upsets me.
Okay, yeah. I mean, no, I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with Harley Quinn being more heroic, I guess. I mean, I'm fine with, Harley and Ivy kind of going off and doing their own thing and stuff like that. That's fine. But I never, I guess, okay, you know what? Maybe this is a better explanation. I guess I wouldn't mind if she turned into more of a Catwoman-like villain.
Okay.
Or Catwoman isn't really evil, but she's not good either.
She's self-invested.
Yes. If they had done that to Harley Quinn, I would have been like, okay, that's a cool idea.
Yeah, I like the Harley and Ivy pairing when they're like riding around on a motorcycle like Veronica and Betty from Archie comics.
Yeah, but don't make them lesbians. Let's not do that.
The thing about Harley is that I never, and I still can't think of the Joker as a sexual character. So having him have a woman around and Harley, that episode where he threw her out of a building when she climbed up onto his desk wearing the nightie there saying, "Come on, ride your Harley." I don't picture the Joker as that kind of a character. So Harley being so involved in his world really it didn't make sense to me. She seemed more like a distraction to what he wanted to do. So her being on her own and like working, well, think of this. What if she had the trajectory of rehabilitating people the Joker had either mind broken or had enslaved in whatever form or exposed to Joker gas, that, you know, part of her arc is that she's doing this charity work for them under the guise of Dr. Harleen Quinzel and stuff like that.
Sure, I could see that. I don't mind. I don't mind Harley being more of a kind of Robin Hoodish criminal either.
Oh, wow! I hadn't thought about that. That is actually an excellent idea.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd be okay. I'd be okay with that, you know.
So, just to recap what just happened here, we just took a character that recently did a comic book about turning cats against their owners because it was some Comicsgate allegory. And we've turned her into a humanitarian that is rehabilitating from Stockholm Syndrome by rehabilitating victims of her boyfriend.
Yeah. Just get rid of the whole ultra feminist angle, and we're good.
Well, you know, again, I mean, you have this now where this character has a heroic trajectory. Whereas before, she was just kind of a political message device in tight pants. So I think Harley's a good character for this, and young girls seem to like her a lot, so she'd be very important in inspiring them to do these kind of things, to be heroic in their own ways, as opposed to trying to copy Superman if they want to be heroic.
Yeah.
Harley's a good hero, I think. She represents a lot of what 21st century women will have to recover from, I think.
Yeah, I'm more of a fan of Wonder Woman in that regard for inspiring little girls.
That's true.
Personally.
A good choice.
I think, you know, characters like Supergirl, Wonder Woman, Batgirl are kind of, you know, really, really great characters, you know.
And it's a shame that they are having to go the way of the dodo.
Yeah, sadly.
Where did they go wrong with Babs for you?
I think during the New 52 where the costume change I didn't like a lot.
The cosplay costume?
The cosplay costume and the whole cutesy young adult My Little Pony kind of vibe that the comic took on, and like
in a selfie all the time. Yeah,
selfies. Yeah, you know, Gail Simone is horrible. I don't like that one. All of that was just terrible to me.
And there was a lot of politics in there.
Yeah,
as well.
There was a lot of politics in there.
We saw recently Jim Gordon being drunk in the Harley Quinn costume when Batgirl takes to the streets.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, they derailed Babs for me when they had her and Bruce have sex on the rooftop.
Oh, the Killing Joke animated movie. Okay, that.
Well, the book itself when they have the sex scenes.
I didn't think the book did that. I thought it was animated movie that did that.
I don't know what I'm talking about, but it just upsets me.
Oh, that was weird. That was weird. When I found out, well, first of all, when I found out that the movie was going to be rated R, I was already kind of off. I'm like, no thanks.
Well, I mean, it's the Killing Joke. I don't really know how to tell that in a PG way.
True, but it's just kind of, you know, my own scruples when it comes to this superhero stuff. But anyway, but then I found out that Babs and Batman do it. I'm like, oh, that's gross. That's just what? No, I always saw their relationship as kind of a surrogate father and daughter kind of thing, you know?
Yeah.
Mentor mentee, you know, it's the same kind of relationship that Robin and Batman had, and I don't even want to. No, I'm not even going to go there. But you know what I mean, right?
Yeah. The Tim Drake Batman and relationship.
Yeah,
Tim Grayson. Excuse me.
Yeah, the thing is though, this is all Bruce Timm. Bruce Timm has this weird fetish for Barbara and Bruce to be together because he did it in the Batman Beyond animated series. I don't know if you've seen that, but it's implied that Barbara and Bruce had a relationship.
Yeah.
And that's just really cringy and weird. I'm like, oh, why?
Well, I mean, I know why they did it because of the 60s Batman thing. When Batgirl came on in the 60s Batman thing, Adam West, the actor, really liked the character. And, you know, he liked the characters and he thought she was interesting. And he also thought she was very beautiful, the actress playing the character as well. So I think that there's a little bit of backstage card playing with that story, you know.
I guess, but it's weird. It's
It,
weird.
it well, it upset me because I don't believe Barbara Gordon should be romantically attracted to Bruce Wayne. I
No.
think she should have a deep and aching need to help him, to be emotionally available to him, to speak to him when he needs to be spoken to. I think that's what Barbara's place is.
Yeah.
To be a,
I
even though
think
she's younger than Bruce, she should be acting like his older sister.
I exactly, and I think Barbara and Dick belong together.
Sure,
Yeah, Dick Grayson and Barbara Gordon.
I don't see why not.
Yeah,
That makes
that's
a nice
that's
team.
that's the way I've always seen it. Um, but yeah. So why don't you tell me about what motivated you to create, Star Supreme and the Colossals? Like, where did that stem from?
It's kind of a deep story, so I hope you're buckled in.
Yeah, I am.
I live my life with a lot of complications. I have a disease called Crohn's, and I've had to go through several surgeries
Mhm.
to survive it. My childhood was a little rocky, so in my life, I needed superheroes. I needed a hero like Superman that was invincible, and his challenges were about decision making, and he always made the right decision. And Superman represented the idealistic man to me, safety, protection. So when I got sick and I didn't have people to protect me, being an adult, you tend not to have people to protect you.
Mhm.
um, I didn't have that, so I had to find a reason to stay alive through all of this. I had to find a reason to keep my head up, and so waking up alone in hospital rooms started to get on my nerves after a while. It was a very cold feeling. So I remember manifesting the idea of a superhero in my mind based on a character I created in 2006 for a text-based fighting game.
Okay.
It was on a pro board way back in the day. Um, And that became Star Supreme, a hero that would be by my bedside, letting me know that everything's all right and I'm okay when I woke up from my surgeries.
Hmm.
And from that, I decided that she needed a family, that she needed her own investments. And as recently as December, I finished the Colossals full creation. And each one of them borrows from a part of me that has been challenged during all of this or damaged during all of my experiences. Not like a leg or a knee, but these dents in my life I've turned into.
In your psyche.
Well, yeah. I like the idea of turning demons into angels.
Okay.
The things that I thought defined me have now been refitted to become things I'm proud of.
Hmm.
And that's what the Colossals represent to me is overcoming the things that nearly killed me, overcoming the belief that I could be alone for the rest of my life, and heroes that shook me when I said I could erase the burden of my existence through suicide.
Yeah.
So that's what Star Supreme's inspiration is that she was born out of the single moment in my life that I felt absolutely hopeless.
Wow. I wish my story was that inspirational.
Well, you may find as you're building where you got the roots to this. It can be, you got to remember that trauma is a funny thing for human beings. It can be as simple as tripping and breaking your nose on the pavement. And that sets you up for being afraid of blood for the rest of your life. It's very strange things the way the brain reacts to it. So don't count yourself out that there have been things in your past that touched you in a way. It touched your soul that it left a fingerprint of Paragon Prime to come.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. This has been a long time coming. Maybe I just have to track it back or something.
You'll know when you find the thing that was the first chord of Paragon Prime. I had it when I heard the Overwatch theme the first time. That struck as that's the kind of
You know,
heroic music.
it's funny you should mention Overwatch, 'cause I used to really like Overwatch. Now it's gotten a little too woke for me. But back when it originally came out, back when that very first CGI trailer came out, believe it or not, that was part of the puzzle that helped me come up with Paragon Prime. There was a tone, a vibe to that first CGI trailer that I want to capture with Paragon Prime.
I felt it too, man. Think about it like this: Blizzard came out and said something that no superhero had said in, I think, almost a decade. They knelt down to that kid and said, "You can be a hero too."
Yeah.
And I can't stress to you how important that message is right now. That you can be a hero too. Just in you being you can be a hero. You don't need to fly or shoot laser beams out of your hands. Just smiling at the cashier at the register of that desolate gas station you go by may change their life today. That's how everyone can be a hero.
Yeah, that was a very inspirational trailer. That last line that Tracer said to the kid, that was just amazing, you know. And I'm like, wow, that's amazing. I felt something watching that, you know.
Yes.
It was just like, wow, this is great, you know. This had this bright kind of optimistic kind of feel to like everything. And I remember wanting an Overwatch animated movie when that came out. And around the same time also, I think when Big Hero 6 came out. And that was also kind of an inspiration for Paragon Prime.
Sure. I mean, how could you not be inspired by that story? It's almost a love note to superheroes in itself.
Yeah, and, you know, and that they came out around the same time. And you know, with my character, I took from Superman, I took from Captain America, I took from just so many different little elements and heroes, and just it took, you know, just kind of this made this kind of Frankenstein superhero, I guess.
No, you took from those characters the parts that best described the beliefs you have that you want to exist in Paragon Prime.
Yeah,
It's not a Frankenstein monster. What it is it's a chemistry mix.
yeah, that's a better way to put it. Yeah.
And what you're creating is a solution to a problem that's going to plague us for this entire century. So
yeah, definitely. And I'm so happy to see that you're with me on this, that other people are with me on this. You know, the people behind Peregrine. There's a couple of other people that I can't think of right now. Can you think of anybody else who's coming on the forefront with us on this?
I believe Mr. Clayface, Clay Lex.
Claylex, yes, Clayman. Yeah, he's coming on board. We had him on the show also a little bit ago. We haven't posted that video up, but yeah, we have a video with him. Yeah, there's a Punchline, the people behind Punchline, the comic. Also, I don't know if you've read that.
I haven't. But yeah, so we have superheroes making a resurgence right here in the indie market.
Yeah,
I know that. Go ahead.
We have a couple like you know, really cool 90s inspired stuff like Black Flag and Sea Dog and Project and Kill Switch, I think.
Yes, yeah, that one. Yeah, it's been a while since I thought about that one. Sorry, I forgot all about it. Sorry. If you're watching this, guys, I didn't forget on purpose. I'm sorry.
That's a great one too, you know. I mean, we have some stuff.
Yeah, it's coming back. It's coming back. People are sitting down and thinking, I can do this too. And they should.
Yeah,
I believe everybody has a story in their heart, and it needs to be told now, sooner rather than later. Not today, obviously, but if you find the time to pen something down, it's important to do it because it may turn into a full-blown franchise within a couple of years.
Definitely. I encourage anybody out there who's thinking about doing this. It's really, really scary. Really scary. I am terrified that I'm going to fail, but at the same time, I need to do this. You know?
And don't fear reaching out to people like me or other people that are also in the process of creating and maybe a little further down the road or more experienced in what's going on just yet. And don't be afraid to contact people who have already been through the ringer on this.
Yeah, I've met some great people like you, Gilly. Gilly's my partner in crime. Like, he's amazing. We have this YouTube channel together, and he's become one of my very, very best friends. And we're doing a lot of stuff together. We're doing the Star Wars thing together, and he's been incredible. And I've met you, and Piper's been amazing. She's really, really cool.
And very excited about this project. Which
yes, very excited about it. You know, this is amazing. There's this community that I'm really, really happy to be a part of, and I'm really excited.
And that is an open invitation. Other people are more than welcome to come in and join this experiment too. What we're trying to create is the new age of creation. Everything's up for grabs now, and the story in your heart is ready to be told.
Yeah, the new age of heroes also.
Sure, we'll call it that. The new age of heroes.
The new age of heroes. And we're filling a void that DC and Marvel don't seem to be interested in filling. Because if you watch videos by a guy called The Fourth Age on YouTube, he'll tell you how they're trying to corrupt the idea of a hero. His videos are amazing. I highly recommend you go check out his channel.
Okay.
He basically saying what I'm trying to say in a much more articulate and intelligent manner. But check him out. He mostly focuses on Marvel, but he's great. Also, another guy is Professor Geek is also really great. Fan Man is also really, really great. Yeah, check out those channels. There's really good stuff there.
We should also remember too that when creating superheroes, we have to live the values in real life. That doesn't mean you have to leap tall buildings in a single bound, but you should, if your superhero would stop to pick up a piece of trash on the sidewalk, maybe you should too. It helps the values of that character evolve and grow too, so they never grow stagnant. Think about having Paragon Prime existing for 80 years, for instance, being in a constant story for 80 years. You don't want him to stop evolving. You don't want his ideas to stop evolving, his worldliness and culture to stop evolving. So live the values of Paragon Prime, and in that way, the character will continue to grow as you do.
Yeah, you're so right about that. Well, I guess that's about it for today, I think.
I've said what I need to say too, but I do want to stress this again. Okay. It's very important to me that I do this. I don't hate Zack Snyder. I don't have anything against the man. I just severely disagree with how he views the DC superheroes. That's all.
Do you get a lot of flack from Snyder people on Twitter? Because I do. So I kind of understand where you're coming from.
I do, but I do want to let them know that we're not divided here. I just have a different taste on how superheroes should work, but we both agree that superheroes are necessities in this culture. Right.
Okay, yes. I've gotten into my fair share of arguments with them on Twitter. So it's gotten heated, but you are right.
Yeah, heroism is different for everyone. Some people look at Superman and think a hero, and others look at the Punisher and think a hero. So we have to remember that while we want to tell stories that are inspiring, altruistic, where the hero has the right answer or comes to it eventually, they also want to have stories. These guys also want to tell stories where the hero has to suffer to get the answer. And that's an equally as compelling story too. It's just not my flavor of story.
It isn't my flavor either. And I'm not saying the hero can't suffer for the answer. It's about the way he suffers, or
yes,
the tone of it. It's yeah.
Right. But we are at the end of the interview, so.
All right. Well, this has been the very first episode of HEROGEEK Presents. Hopefully, you'll join us next time when I do this again. CiderHype, I would love to have you back for another conversation like this in the future. That'd be great.
Sure.
But
Absolutely. I'll have more to talk about and show off then.
yeah, totally. Like, whenever, you know what? Next time we'll talk about more about our different superheroes. I'll talk more about Paragon Prime. We talk about more about Star Supreme and the Colossals.
Yep.
We'll do like a video focusing on that aspect.
Now that sounds like a plan.
That would be super fun. I'd love to do that. Anyway, so guys, this is HeroGeek signing off. Geek out, guys.
Geek out.